Yeah,
good?
just yep. You guys look great. I'm monitoring you right here. Just stay up on the mics. That's about it.
I'll stay up on the mics,
Yep.
man. All right, bruv.
Cameron, do I look good? You know what I mean?
I think you look gorgeous.
Well, it's only about the camera.
Exactly.
I know how I look in real life, but do I look good on camera?
Yes.
Right.
Mr. Bishop, you look great.
Should we? Yeah.
All right, here we go.
We off?
Yeah, you can take it away, John.
Am I going to be the first one to talk on it?
I think at the seniority.
Yeah, I think so as well. Okay, I'll take that. So this is called the Bishop Exchange. I'm John Bishop. I'm here with Des Bishop,
Yes.
who's not related, even though we have got the same jaw.
Not related, but relatable. That's the motto.
That's selling point.
Not related, but relatable.
Yeah.
Come and explore the world with the two bishops.
Well, let's first of all explain where we are and what the intention is, and also I think the good thing as well is to explain the name, because when we came up with this idea, we were kicking loads of.
We were desperate to keep the bishop because it's a unique thing. There's a lot of comedians with the same first name, but not a lot of comedians with the same last name.
And we've been friends for a long time, and so it seems that like a good link. It's a coincidence, but it's a good link. So we think we've got to keep the name, and the name's got to be part of it. And we were coming up with various.
We had the two bishops, which we thought sounded like the two Johnnies too much.
Yeah, it did.
Remember what
and
else?
And the two Ronnies. Yeah, of course. And then we had. What else did we have? Bishop to Bishop.
Bishop to Bishop, which probably was our number 2 choice.
I thought that was all right. And then we had the John and Des Bishop podcast.
But we had the Synod, which we thought was...
That was clever. The Synod was clever for the
Synod
Catholics.
is clever, but I think maybe people don't understand. Also, the Synod is definitely good, but it sounds like we're going to talk about serious issues. Like it almost sounds like a really good news show that focuses on clerical issues.
Yeah, it does.
This week on the Synod.
So we had that. And then every time we produce a pod, there's some smoke comes out.
Yeah, exactly. No, the pod's coming out when the smoke gets released from the thing.
So we had the Synod, and then we came up with the Bishop Exchange, which... Did you find out that it's a
You
chess...
found the Bishop Exchange is you.
Yeah, it's a chess move.
Yes.
No, it was my wife. Was it Melanie who came up with it? Or friends? Anyway, it's a chess move. It's a chess move where you swap your bishop in exchange for a knight.
Yeah.
So that's what we are. We're waiting to become knights.
So this is the most important thing that needs to be said. This is not a chess podcast.
Yeah,
exactly. I feel like we're going to get a lot of chess.com people, because I accidentally about a year ago got stuck in the algorithm of chess controversies. So Bishop was always our bond, what bound us together. But do you know another comedian that shares our last name? By any chance? It's going to surprise you.
Apart from Aiden.
Aiden, my brother, yes, but this one's going to surprise you. Perhaps you, Jamie Foxx. Is actually, his real name is Eric Bishop.
No way.
Yeah, you didn't know. I thought you might not know that.
No way.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx is Eric Bishop.
Why is Fox better than Bishop?
You
know what I mean? Like, it sounds Jamie Foxx suits him, but Jamie Bishop would have
He
could have been part of our fraternity. We could have had him on the... But you know what? Because of that, we're never having him on the fraternity.
Eric Bishop, you are not welcome here.
You're done.
Yeah, you're ashamed of the name.
Ashamed of the name. You can go with all the Foxes that you want, but on this podcast, you're done.
Yeah. So we always had a weird connection to our name. So we very much wanted to keep that as part of the name.
Can you remember when we first met?
Absolutely. Rawhide Comedy Club.
Rawhide, you were over there with Eddie Bannon.
Was it 99 or 2000?
I think you were about 19.
No, I couldn't have been 19. I started comedy at 21.
I think you were pretending
23.
to be 19.
No, I think I was about 23.
I tell you, I started comedy in the year 2000. And I think Eddie had brought you over to do gigs in England as a new comic, but I hadn't been going long, so it could only have been about 2001. Yeah, must have been 2001.
I was new, and it was one of my first times performing in the UK.
Yeah, and I was comparing.
Actually, you weren't comparing.
Wasn't I comparing?
No. So this is what happened. It was a Friday and a Saturday.
Okay.
And on the first night, you had to. On the first night, I think you had to go on first because you had to go somewhere else, and you murdered You opened up with I look like Jamie Carragher. I didn't even know who Jamie Carragher was. I didn't know who Jamie Carragher was. I look like Jamie Carragher. And like, we're in Liverpool and everyone's like, oh my God, this guy is the most amazing guy ever. And then I come on, the same fucking name, no Liverpool knowledge. I was just a bad version of you coming on after with an American accent. And
I used to do the hip hop.
Yeah, but I didn't. I did all right the first night. Following you was tough. The second time I went on first, and it was easier for me because I didn't have to follow you.
Yeah,
And it was actually easier. But that's the first time we met.
That's the first time we met, and then so that's 20 odd years ago. And then what would happen for people who from America or whatever who don't know, that every year there's a festival in England, the Edinburgh Festival, which is a comedy festival in August. And I think that's where we started to hang out a lot. It was me, you, Jason Bear. We used to hang out a lot because you're there for a month doing stand-up, and then the Kilkenny festivals and stuff like that. So over the years, we've developed this friendship, which is a proper, genuine friendship, isn't it?
It is. And a lot of it had to do with fitness back in the day, and now that's not a
that's
part of
gone.
it. that is not a part of it at all. Now we share ailments. And that's the other thing about this podcast that people need to know. These are two middle-aged men, and they are not afraid to be middle-aged. Well, I'm not.
No.
I have to, because the other podcast I did was with my wife, Hannah. She's a bit younger than me, and it's
A
great.
bit, just a bit.
Yeah, but
I was at the wedding. Do you remember? I was at the wedding. I was there. You know what I mean? The first bride who's walked down with the nanny.
Oh, but anyway, that podcast is great, but there's just certain references that she doesn't get. For example, like our early conversation about the synod would not have been a conversation that I would have been able to have with Hannah.
I know.
So this is nice that we can.
I get it.
Be middle-aged.
When we had the chat about having this podcast, the big reason was for you to talk to somebody about stuff that we understand.
Yes.
The same age,
And with two
same
men.
reference.
With two
And
men. You know?
Yes. The other thing that we've got to do is to explain where we actually are.
Oh yeah, we're in New York City right now.
Yeah. We're in New York City, and we're here doing this way. This is going to be quite unusual because most of the time we're never going to be in the same place.
No, we're going to be remote. Long distance relationship.
That's the best way.
That's the best way. But it's going to be, right now we're in New York together. This is just our introductory episode. But it's going to be very much driven by you, the listener.
Yeah.
So I put on my National Public Radio / BBC Radio 4 voice to explain to the listener that you will be sending us voice notes a lot of the time, sometimes some text, but we will be talking about the stuff that you guys want to talk about. So don't think it's just going to be me and John waxing lyrical about the good old days. You guys are going to be involved.
Yeah, no, it's important that we say that because what we're going to try and do with this, and we'll see how it goes, but what we're going to try and do is do it a couple of times a week. And the main reason for that is that a couple of times a week, we've been phoning anyway. We'd probably be having a chat, and we may as well make something of it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
also,
I've wasted so many conversations with you off camera.
Exactly.
Wasted them. It's the content. It's the content generation. Don't call me unless you are recording.
Yeah, don't call me unless there's a clip we can get from it.
This conversation.
No, so God, I'm boiling.
Oh my God, John's stripping off already. So
Yeah,
this is the Full Monty podcast.
I wasn't expecting it. It's so cold. Again, what people are going to understand, like we're in New York and there's just this cold snap's just arrived.
Yes.
And it's going to arrive even more tomorrow, which is a nuisance. But it is cold. Because what people got to understand, like this is your apartment. We're in your apartment. We can say that, can't we? No,
oh yeah, we can say it's a room that we don't really use. Hence the mustard-colored walls.
Yeah,
that's only temporary. Honestly, it was.
It does look like
It's a long story.
Somebody who's mentally ill.
This is due for renovation. This section.
Yeah. So we're here in New York, and I'm here anyway because what I'm doing is I'm filming a. I know, but I don't like the word special. I know,
but that's just what people understand these days. You're making content.
Yeah, well, basically, what I'm doing is I'm filming a load of stuff to stick on YouTube because some of the stuff I can't stick on YouTube because I already sold the rights to make it a DVD. So I'm getting it all back, sticking it on YouTube. So I'm doing that at the Comedy Cellar in New York. So I've been here for a few days doing gigs.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What have you found so far has been the greatest cultural barrier that you didn't expect to hit while you were on stage? like reference-wise.
Oh, I did it yesterday.
What happened?
I did it yesterday. I stumbled yesterday, halfway through telling a story. I was telling a story about me, out of context, this would sound out. I was telling a story yesterday about my wife going to see a gynecologist.
Right.
And
That's
then,
not that odd out of context.
yeah, but anyway, there's a longer story to it, isn't it? And then the gynecologist saying to me, what happened? My wife went to see him, and then afterwards she walks out, and he comes out to me and says, "Can I see you now?" And that's what I mean, out of context. I mean, it's odd anyway, but
yeah.
So he said, "Can I see you?" I went, okay. And then I sat down, and he said to me, and I'm saying this on my current tour, and there's a whole story behind it, but he said, "So, how are you?" I said, "What?" And he said, "How are you?" And the problem is, like, number one, I'm shocked I'm talking to a gynecologist and he's asking me how I am. Well, I'll tell you how I am. I've got testicles. You know what I mean?
Did he find chlamydia in your wife's vagina? Because, like, are you burning? Like, what? He's trying to get.
I never thought that. I never for a minute thought he was asking me because my wife might have.
Have you been
any
any discharged?
Yeah. you know what?
Don't turn it on me, motherfucker. I didn't get grilled by the gynecologist.
I'm going to have that. That's going to be next time I tell that story.
It's a writing workshop podcast.
So he said to me, "How are you?" And I remember going like, because doctors don't, male doctors don't say to male clients, if you go and see a doctor, I went for a prostate examination about 6 weeks before this. A prostate examination.
Yeah. But they don't do that. They don't do that anymore, right?
Oh, this guy did. Yeah. Well, I think he was a doctor anyway. But this guy, it was,
that's over, right? Just so you know, they don't do that anymore.
So anyway, that was a double check. Anyway, leaving all that aside, so he said to me, "How are you?" And the joke that I've got is, considering I'm talking to a man who's just been messing with my wife's fanny, I'm okay.
I knew it was going to be a fanny.
I got to fanny, and then I realised, oh my God, I'm in New York. Fanny in New York is not like the front bum, it's the back bum, it's the arse. And I'm saying he's a gynecologist, they're going to think he's a fucking bad gynecologist, this guy. He's looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, wrong hole.
So that was one of those things, where you're telling a joke and you're full flow and you've done that material loads of times before, and then you just hit the word and it's like tripping up. You think, oh my God, how do I and I just burst out laughing. And I had to say to him, "Look, this is what I meant to say."
Did you get a laugh out of explaining that a fanny is a...
Yeah. So I dug it out, but yeah, that's one of the that was a big sort of stumbling block I wasn't expecting.
I can't think of one off the top of my head, but even to this day, despite being born and raised in New York, I still sometimes say words and I realize, oh shit, that's not a word.
Yeah, but you're virtually, you're trilingual, aren't you? In reality, in terms of English, Irish, and Chinese. But
yeah, actually, because assuming early on, let's face it, a lot of these people are going to be your fans. I should probably explain that I have a New York accent, but I lived in Ireland a lot more.
I was going to say to you,
so I forgot to explain that part.
Yeah, are you looking at that? Are you looking at the camera all the time? You keep looking at there.
Yeah. Listen, John, I don't want to give you... I'm
talking to me. You're going,
yeah, but bro...
You're trying to get an advert out of this.
Now is irrelevant. This is the thing you have to understand about the modern world. What's happening between us doesn't matter. It's what's going out to the world that matters. Bro, I'm living in the virtual world.
My God.
So when this gets cut up, I'm going to be the one looking down the lens. And people are going to be like, what the fuck is John looking at?
No, everyone's going to say, why is Des fucking looking in the wrong place?
No,
I'm
looking at the right place.
When this gets edited, and me and you looking at each other down that lens. I'm looking at that one. From that one, I'm just going to talk to your left shoulder. I'm just
exactly. Cheat it.
So anyway, what were we saying? Oh yes, because this is an interesting thing, again, that people don't know. When you came over to Liverpool, you were based in Ireland, you started doing stand-up in Ireland. You've got a strong New York accent, you live in New York, your wife's from New York, your life is in New York. But how much of your life has been spent outside, living in the UK, well, living in Ireland?
Yeah.
And you were born in the UK, weren't you?
Yeah, that's not really part of my brand. John, Jesus, Christmas. Yeah, no, I was born in London. I have a London birth. There's nothing I can do about it. Behind enemy lines, I say, in Ireland.
No, I didn't know that until you said something when we were having a coffee the other day about being born in England, and it just triggered me mind. So, but then you went back to Ireland in your teenage years. So how much of your life has been in Ireland as opposed to here?
2/3. A lot more of my life in Ireland. My entire professional life, until the pandemic, was mostly in Ireland.
So being here now and coming back, because I remember you coming back to work in the States and to start.
Yeah, well, I started doing a bit more.
Yeah.
But then I met Hannah during the pandemic. So that changed things altogether.
Yeah. But how have you found, because in many respects, like I'm coming over to the States doing gigs and I'm loving the challenge of it because I'm having to work the clubs, I'm having to build it up, I'm having to find an audience. And I am loving, and I also like the comedy environments here.
Yeah, because you kind of move away from that, right? When you get well known, like you did well, and I did well in Ireland, and then you move away from the camaraderie and also just the pressure. Remember, I was talking about you opening up, and then I found you hard to follow. Like suddenly you're really back in that pressure every night.
Every night.
As opposed to every now and then you do a charity show and you got to follow. But now it's every night.
Yeah, like I did five gigs last night, and they were good gigs in themselves. But there was one gig where I was like, fuck, I've got to follow him, and and that was difficult. And you got to work the room, and that's a great thing to have to do, to put yourself into it. But also it is that readjustments, because you were actually, I think, the first famous person I knew, because I remember going to Kilkenny and we'd known each other a few years, and you got stopped for a photograph, and that was the first kind of mate I had, being stopped by somebody for a photograph.
Yeah,
which is quite a leap when you do that. When you're working on the circuit, everyone's on a level, and then all of a sudden people just rise up and then move on.
And then it got to the stage where you got so famous that I would have disappointed people at my shows who thought they'd bought tickets to John Bishop.
Absolutely, and I would often advertise your shows. I'm not available, but there's another
reasonable looking bishop that's on. So anyway, yeah. So I spent a lot more of my life.
Do you think you would have started, because when you're living in Ireland, you're exotic, you know what I mean, you've got an edge and you can play on that in the gigs and stuff. Do you think if you'd have lived all your life in New York, you'd have started in New York?
I mean, it's a great hypothetical. My mother always says she sent me to Ireland because she knew that I was a disaster with booze and drugs, and she thought that I was going to go through it, so I'd be safer going through it in Ireland. And maybe she was right. I know that's a joke. I make a joke about that. All the places to send a young alcoholic, send them to Ireland. But in truth, it was a safer place for me to exercise my demons, right?
Yeah.
So I'd like to think that I might have got into stand-up because it is part of who I am. It wasn't because I had a funny take on Ireland that I got into stand-up. I always liked making people laugh. But I think probably in truth, I would have ended up in jail if I stayed in the States. Or certainly would have ended up like on harder drugs than I got into in Ireland.
How old were you when you went?
14. I was only a kid. Yeah. So I was 14 when I went there, and 19 when I stopped drinking, and 21 when I got into comedy. And it was actually a guy in recovery that got me into comedy. So who knows?
Who got you into comedy?
This guy. You wouldn't know him. Frank Toomey. He's dead now. But yeah. And so anyway, who knows? I really don't know. I'd like to think I would have got into comedy, but you can't say, can you?
Yeah, but so 19, you get sober, and so then you.
Are you interviewing me now?
No, it's just an interesting thing, isn't it? Because sometimes you talk to your mates and you bounce along with your mates and you know little bits, but you don't. And also, you kind of, this is an opportunity, I suppose, to delve into those, introduce each other. But I am dead interested in the fact that at 19. You get sober, and the one thing about being sober, particularly young, is everyone goes, right, there's dangers everywhere, and if drinking's the problem, stay away from drinking. And then you do the job that puts you right in the place where everyone's drinking.
But I was a year and a half sober.
But that's never.
Nah, I was very I was pretty much like a lick arse type of recovery guy in the early days. Like I really wanted to do everything right. So I was very solid when I got into comedy, and actually, I would say comedy just became like the addiction. Like I would almost say that it wasn't good for my mental health, but it was good for my recovery, and that like all I cared about was getting better at stand-up. So it really became like a new drug. And it is like, the highs and the lows of it were pretty analogous to, the highs and the lows of drugs and alcohol, So I don't think the booze thing was irrelevant to me getting into stand-up. The one good thing about it is stand-up is not I don't have any memories of being drunk after shows, whereas I always feel bad for comics that like really struggle with booze, then they get sober, they got to go right back into this habit that they had, this pain relief that they had for after a show. So no, I never felt that, but what I did feel was that the excitement was great. If you stopped drinking at 19, and I still went out and all, I had a pretty fun early 20s regardless, but the excitement of stand-up was a pretty good replacement for going out and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that's the good thing about stand-up. Like even now, we've both been doing it for 25 years for me this year, and similar time for you. Even now, you can still die on your ass. Even now,
especially when you come to another country.
Yeah, even now you're only ever 4 words away from it all blowing up in your face, and I think that's a great thing to be able to carry on doing.
Oh yeah, man. Well, the good thing about being in the States is it makes you better. But the bad news is that you definitely have to take a step back on the rung of the hierarchy.
Also, I'm getting introduced as English, and I'm walking on, and everyone's going, "He's not English."
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
He doesn't sound English.
Yeah, because I worried when you were coming over here that people weren't going to understand you.
Yeah, it's been
Chris. How has it been so far? So Chris is our true American correspondent.
I think I'm getting at least 75-80% of it.
All right.
Yeah.
Any words that he said that you didn't get?
None in particular. I'll flag them as they come up.
Do you know where he's from?
England, right?
Yeah, but can you hear
particularly
the accent?
where? No, I don't know anything about it.
Because it's very distinct.
Yeah, no.
He has one of the more noticeable English accents.
It definitely stands out. I couldn't pick it out, no.
Yeah. It's a working class Liverpool accent.
Yeah. It's a poor accent. Basically, if you ever go to England and anyone sounds like this, they're poor. They'll be a good worker. They're poor. It's a poor accent. It's funny because I was doing a gig last night. Oh God, his name's just gone out my head. The comic I was following last night, he did the English impression. Drew. Yeah, what's Drew's surname? Drew.
Not Drew Smith, right?
No, it's not Drew Smith.
I know him, but
the guy
it doesn't
from
matter.
Boston.
Yeah, I forgot a second.
Good. Anyway, so Drew goes on and he does.
Drew Dunn.
Yeah,
Drew Dunn.
Yeah,
I forget good Irish name.
Yeah, good. So he's good actor. So he goes on stage, and he does this perfect English accent. And Drew does about 5 minutes of being English.
Actually good.
Actually good.
Oh, faking it. Like the audience don't know he's
They don't know he's American. So he's saying, now I live I now live in America. And he's doing all this, and he's doing what they think is an English accent. And he's going, you can tell an English accent because some English accents are going, they're the rough people. And then he's doing, and then halfway through he goes, listen, I'm from Boston. And he starts all his Boston.
Oh, that's good.
And that laugh.
And he's taking all your fish out of water material.
Yeah,
and he's not a fish out of water, this bastard.
And then Richie, the compere, introduces me as the guy from England, and I had to go on and go, listen, I am the guy from England, but I don't sound like the guy who's pretending he was from England, who sounds more English than the guy from England. It was just...
But you know what's funny, though, is that they can't hear, like, you sound probably just as English as him to them. They'll hear maybe a slight variation, but not as much as you think. So Hannah can't really tell the difference between you and Russell Brand. Accent-wise. Okay.
There was going to be a lot of disclaimers then. That was some reference.
Yeah, accent-wise. Well, it was deliberate. I want to say also, I forgot to say that I have accepted Jesus Christ as my Savior because it feels like a good career move for Russell.
Talking of Jesus Christ, my Savior, and career moves, today of all days, we couldn't have planned it.
Yeah.
It's the inauguration.
But it was why we said we are starting today.
Yeah,
Because today is Liberation Day.
It's the Liberation Day. And we're going to do it today before we stop doing anything. Also, today he just changed all the laws, didn't he? So that free speech is whatever the fuck you want to say to whoever you want to fucking say it. Fucking say it.
Yeah, which is, I mean, well, let me ask you, how did you feel as a foreigner listening to the inauguration speech?
You know what? I thought it was absolutely fascinating. I watched it, and again, it's one of those mad things. I'm in the hotel room in New York, and I'm watching it, and my wife's watching it at home, and we're texting each other at all different stages. You know what I mean? Like, look at the face on Kamala; she looks pissed off, and all of this stuff. You know, Joe Biden looks like he's at a wedding. He's just smiling when he thinks he should smile, and then sitting there. But what I thought was a real touch of class, and I'd never seen it before because I'd never watched an inauguration before, is the exiting presidents and vice presidents being part of it, and handing over, and that.
Interesting.
I thought that transition, which obviously didn't happen last time, I thought that was a real touch of class to go right.
That's what it's meant to be.
It's meant to be. And then Donald Trump gets up and goes, "Okay, now we've done all this."
These people were
These
absolutely
terrible. He was shit.
You know when you do in stand-up? You know when you do in stand-up and like the host is an asshole and like some newer comic dies and the host gets up and is like, well, that was shit. That's what Trump did to Biden and Kamala. Luckily, Biden doesn't fucking know where he is, so he didn't really care.
So I thought that was interesting. I think, listen, what American people don't realise, well, they probably do realise, but people everywhere else feel sometimes more interested in their politics than they are, because it affects the world, or it feels like it affects the world so much. But then I did my first little tour in America this year, and it suddenly struck me because the election campaign was on, and I'm in places like, I know, Denver and places like that. You think it doesn't feel like anything's going to change here. It feels like this country is so big that the president changes things a little bit, but the country itself just carries on.
Well, one thing I'll say for certain, because listen, if Trump could pull off everything he promised today, if he pulled off 60% of what he promised today, I'd be happy. Yeah. And I did not vote for Trump. I'm not afraid to put that out there. I did not vote for Trump. But so obviously I'd be delighted, but I don't think, number one, that he's going to pull off a lot of that stuff. And number two, he's painting this picture of America that is just not true. And I know people will argue with me, but it's not true. I'm not saying things are great, but it is not the failed state that he is talking about.
Whatever you say, it's happening. And as you say, I get the sense from my small experience in the States that people just go, there's a lot of things that we completely disagree with, but the country needs people to deliver. If he delivers, he delivers.
Yeah. I want to state officially that I am going to begin this term completely neutral on Donald Trump. I'm going to give him
the way you fucking do this with your eye. What are you doing with your eye?
It's my NPR voice. I become serious.
But your eye drops.
Does it?
You're talking to them on there.
Because I'm looking at the camera.
Sincere. Whatever happens with this podcast, he's going to get a coffee advert or something. Look at the guy.
Whatever happens with this podcast. No, I'm going to begin neutral on Trump just because I'm not just going to begin by Trump bashing. I thought the speech was overly negative, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt for now. And maybe, because the only thing is that 8 years ago I thought the same thing. Like, maybe, just maybe.
Yeah, let's see. Listen, well, it is what it is. It is what it is. And the thing with this podcast is, like, there's loads of politics podcasts. This podcast I want is for us to just shoot the breeze a couple of times a week, for people to be able to ask us anything that they want to ask us. So let's see but what a day to be here. What a day to be in the States.
You're officially American now, John.
What a day to launch this. What a day. So the next few weeks, we're going to carry on doing this. But obviously, we're not going to be in your apartments in New York. No. I leave here on Thursday. I get on Friday. You're going... When are you going tomorrow?
Going back to Ireland tomorrow. Going on tour in Ireland now. for 7 weeks.
7 weeks.
Yeah. So we'll be more on the same side of the Atlantic.
So that'll be easy. So you'll be in Ireland for 7 weeks. We'll do these on this Zoomy or whatever it is that we're going to use. We're not going to use, well, whatever we use, a remote thing to do it, and then we'll see how we get on. And then because you're going to be on tour, I'm going to be on tour in February, which would be good because most of the time we're never going to be in the same place.
Yeah. And we're going to have some segments. We're going to have you guys messaging in. We're gonna,
when we say you guys,
we're going to have...
Is this the person you're talking to?
Yeah.
You messaging in.
Literally, the listener.
Yeah, okay.
You guys, the
Okay.
listener. The whole time I've been aware of their presence.
Are we, professional, are we going to get them to...
We're going to post a link on our Instagram stories.
Because you do this with Hannah, don't you?
We're robbing that idea from Burnaphone.
And they phone it, or did he send a voice message?
They send up to 1 minute voice note on this app. It's pretty easy to use. People have found no problem. And for next episode, we want people literally to just message in with what they would like from the podcast.
Yeah.
In general. So it's
Yeah.
a very general shout out, what they would like from the podcast. But we'll post it on our Instagram stories, and you'll see the link, and you'll see what the theme or the topic will be.
Yeah.
For what you message. In.
Okay, and so if we do that, and then we'll try and we'll reconfigure Friday or something.
We're also going to have a segment called Diagonally Thinking.
You're saying this just because that's what the bishop
Because it's
does.
a chess piece joke.
I know, but it's...
But you gotta have segments. You gotta have names. You know, so it's the diagonally thinking. One of us will have a hot take for the week. You know, we'll be talking about like an issue. Diagonally thinking.
Right. Okay.
You got a yes end here, John. You can't be.
No. Okay. Then we're gonna get people sending us stuff in, and we're gonna diagonally.
No, that's a
think.
separate segment,
Oh, is it? Fucking how many segments have we got in this?
bro. You want to do 2 episodes a week?
I know. Okay.
You know, there's only
Well,
so many times we can. There's only so many times we can talk about the good old days. You know, we got. So that's it, really, right? I mean, that's an introduction. It's an introductory episode.
Is everyone happy? Is the
Chris,
listener happy?
Chris, do you have any notes?
Nah, I want to see what the segments look like. I think people are going to give you guys
Is
some
he
good
the segment
inspiration.
guy? Is he the segment guy?
Well, we're not always going to have Chris. I don't think.
We can't. No. So
I think we're probably going to have Bradley.
We're gonna have Bradley.
Bradley's going to be our guy.
Yeah. We've got to say this is going to be on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, and
'Cause
only
that's what
one
it's
of us
all
is
for.
going to be looking in the right place.
I know it's all good. If you want to see what Des really looks like when he looks deep into your eyes, full of sincerity,
If you're going to be
get
so
on
sick
John
of the
Bishop's
side
YouTube.
of John's nose.
Fucking tell me at the end.
And what's the YouTube, though?
Oh,
God.
John Bishop. John Bishop Comedy. John Bishop Comedy is the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so if you wanna
'Cause there's
watch
other
the full
bits
ep.
of it. Yeah, watch the full ep on John Bishop Comedy.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
No, thank you, guys.